to another installment of Ron Ruth Presents right here on Disc Jockey News TV. My special guest today is Caroline Kurkowski, and she is the owner of a company called Upbeat Occasions in Albany, New York. Hello, Caroline. How are you?
Hi, Ron. Nice to see you again.
Our topic today is about working with special needs individuals at events. So I'd like to back up just a little bit though, because and find out how did you get involved in focusing on something like that in your business?
Sure. So, obviously I became a teacher 13 years ago, specializing in, students with disabilities. And once I started my business and kind of got my name out there, I immediately started to get a lot of events, school events, because I knew a lot of people within the district and within school systems. And then that's kind of how it piggybacked off. So then, jumping from working on, school events and dances, then all of a sudden I started getting more inquiries from parents or friends of parents who knew that I worked with kids with special needs. I was able to kind of combine both passions really with minimal effort. So when you talk about word of mouth, you're like, oh, you get referrals because you did this event, you did this event. No, it was more like you worked with my child and you're extremely, special and wonderful. And I want you to do my sister's wedding. I'm like, oh, okay. So that's kind of how it grew and it continues to grow in that manner. So
your focus then is on, so if someone says to you, Caroline, that that there will be some special needs children, and I think we've all, as a DJ, I remember having a brother of a bride or of a groom or someone at a wedding with special needs, and really never thought about it a whole lot. But from your point of view, there are ways that you can actually involve and include these individuals so it's more inclusive, I guess is the word I'm looking for here. How do you go about doing that?
Sure. So a lot of that is just in conversation. So for example, when I'm at wedding shows, one of the first things I say is, this is one of my main passions, but I'm also a special ed teacher. And all of a sudden the conversation starts flowing and like, oh, and so, or, my son, has special needs. Or like I shared with you last week a little bit where one of my couples, the groom has special needs. And in our conversation, we talked about the importance of volume control, which is something that, as a whole, we always talk about that. We always talk about when I'm planning with couples, make sure you have your senior citizens or, people that might be, more, I'm
sensitive,
losing the word here.
Sensitive.
Thank you.
Noise.
To volume control. So these are things that, we just start talking about. Right. So it's just become a natural conversation, and and I think people just appreciate that. Whether they have kids or family members, it's just a matter of having that conversation just to find out. And it's actually in my planning forms now. There's a section of unique circumstances, special needs, any kids or family members with special needs that I should be aware of. Because you don't have to broadcast it. It's not like, little Johnny has special needs. He might be fine, and he might be absolutely okay at the event. But it's just good to bring that up, and like I said, people are very appreciative.
Well, it's really no different than asking, in a way, I guess. It's really no different of asking if someone in your group is a vegan, as an example.
Yeah, right.
When you talk about special needs, well, I'm a vegan and I prefer not to have meat. So I'm trying to envision, though. So you're having this conversation. Let's talk about it from the standpoint of a DJ that doesn't know how to start this conversation, because sometimes conversations those type of questions can be difficult in a way for someone that is not is not exposed to it every day as you are as a teacher. I mean, I guess that'd probably be the best way of stating it. So when I sit down with someone and I want to inquire about something like that, what's the best way to start that conversation?
That's a really good question, Ron. I think it could be more of just an open discussion. You don't have to actually say like, do you have people with special needs in your life? Like it doesn't have to be like that, but it's more of those unique circumstances. And usually if it is going to be a concern, they will share it with you. And then with that, it's more, if you're not a teacher, right? Most DJs aren't. Then you say, okay, can you tell me about, your son who has Down syndrome? What are some things that I should be aware of? And just be honest. You know what I mean? It's like when I have a conversation with a couple and they say, we want to have crazy eclectic music. I'll be like, okay, well, what does that mean? So it's really just a matter of educating yourself. And if you don't know, ask. Like, no, there's going to be no harm in asking. And I think people will be, more receptive if you do ask questions. Like, and obviously if you're developing this relationship, it should be pretty easy just to have this conversation.
Right. I mean, well, and you're being invited to be a part of a family special day. I mean, it's not just about the bride and groom, it's about the family as well. So
yeah,
the more you know about the family, the better. Do you have any memories of moments maybe that you've been able to create through your business when you're doing a wedding where you've done something that has been inclusive, where you could actually get someone with special needs more further involved than what most of us might consider? I don't know if I'm asking that question the right way.
Yeah, no, and I do. This was it'll be about a year next month. A wonderful couple from New Jersey. And the brother of the groom had special needs.
Right.
But real outgoing, loves music, so much fun. So the bride said, I would love to do a little like mashup dance with so-and-so. Can you make this happen? And I said, yeah, like let's plan this. So they picked like 3 or 4 songs. It was maybe at a 2 to 3 minute. They came up with the dance moves. I just put together the music, sent it to them prior, so they could practice.
Right.
And what was so fun is that was the way to get everybody on the dance floor. So instead of just, your typical, okay, everybody, it's time to dance. It was like, no, we already had these 2 people on the dance floor, and the energy and excitement was so incredible that, they said that was almost more powerful than some of the other formalities that you would see at a wedding. It really was. I just watched the video the other day, and it was so much fun.
Go ahead. I'm sorry.
No, that was, there was another highlight of a student who I had the pleasure of working with when he was really young, a student with autism who at the point when I started working with him could not speak. And to this day, and I still don't give myself, I give myself some credit, but mom says, you are the reason my child can speak. Long story short, one of her best friends gets married. Their anniversary is coming up next week. I had their friend's wedding, and my former student, who I haven't seen in years, he shows up dressed to the nines and spent like most of the wedding like behind the booth with me. He had the headphones on, just a very curious kid. So we talked a lot about the equipment, and it was a pretty special moment, real special moment. Especially when you haven't seen the child for a while. And
right.
Now he's a young man with a mustache. You're like, you got so old, buddy. So
it's got to make you feel so good inside when somebody says to you that you are the reason my child speaks.
It's unbelievable. I know. I just got goosebumps again.
I mean, that's just, as I'm hearing this, I'm thinking, wow, that's
powerful, right? I mean,
yeah. So,
because, it's funny, just on a side note, but a lot of people say, your DJ business is growing, you're doing really well, blah, blah, blah. You're ever going to give up teaching? And I said, absolutely not. Absolutely not. It's so incredibly rewarding. And what's nice is, teachers have the summer off. Well, guess what? I perform wedding, I DJ at weddings and things like that. So it works out.
You touched upon for someone with autism, they might be overly sensitive, or not overly. They may be sensitive to loud music. What other things should a DJ look out for? What or avoid, I guess, in a situation like that? I mean, I'm guessing. Okay, so we have loud music, lighting.
Yeah. So lighting is another one, and that's that's just a good question to ask anybody, because for seizures, right. Things like that. For some people, it's fine. So it's a case by case. There's kids on the spectrum that are fine with music, but sometimes like that bass can be upsetting. Sometimes kids can become overstimulated by the lights,
right?
And that's not necessarily a good thing. I'm trying to think what else. I guess no surprises. So if even like if you're doing the sparkler send off at the end of the night, for a kid, you might just let them know. So some of that pre-setting is important, and those are things that you can set with the families in advance.
So what about, so that's someone with
balloons. I would say balloons. You get worried about the latex allergies. Things like, it's just little things that you might not be aware of. So one thing, when I go to the DJ Expo every year, there's a game seminar, which is awesome. But some of the games involve like putting things in your mouth and stuff like that. Those are things that like you just have to be cautious of, especially with allergies, and now obviously with the pandemic, like you just now there's extra precautions to take.
The
one thing and the positive too is like I did with that gentleman who did the mashup dance. That was their time to shine. So if you can find opportunities, if you can ask a kid or whoever, what is their favorite song? Can we sneak that in for them? Just something small, but it really can make such a big difference.
So I can appreciate, yes, I agree with you wholeheartedly as far as making sure that you ask a lot of questions, but just to kind of give somebody an idea, is there a difference between sensitivities of someone with autism, say someone with Down syndrome? Is there?
Yes.
Yes.
Yeah. And there's different levels when you're talking about the autism spectrum. That is a huge spectrum.
Right.
Huge. So, it's just a matter of kind of educating yourself, and obviously, people can always reach out to me, and I can share with them. But it's really just, you got to ask the parents, you got to ask the families. They know best. They do, 100%.
So if someone is in this situation where they know they're going to have some special needs guest at their event, and they do have some questions, they could reach out to you. What would be the best email address for them to use, Caroline, to get a hold of?
Yeah, you could absolutely reach me at Caroline@upbeatoccasions.com. You could also give me a phone call.
Caroline, do you have any closing words of advice or anything you'd like to share before I let you go? Because I just want to make sure that we've...
Sure. Yeah. So, I mean, just a couple of things. You really, the pre-planning stages, really get to know your couples, get to know their families, get to know anybody that's important to them, and make time to have those discussions. Not just we're going to talk about it the day of your wedding. No, these are conversations you need to have way in advance. If you can make a special moment, or if they want a special moment, absolutely. And don't be afraid to ask questions. It's okay. We don't all have the answers. Still, 13 years teaching, which seems like a long time, but I have so much more to learn. And the same thing goes for anybody in the industry. Reach out to people and educate yourself.
Yeah, I think the hard part for a lot of people is knowing it's okay to not know and to ask
Absolutely.
the questions. You need to know, and yeah, I'd rather know this information in advance than find it out by surprise the night of the event, because you don't want to put yourself in an embarrassing situation, or the family in an embarrassing situation because you didn't know or didn't ask the right questions. So with that, Caroline, I think I thank you so much for taking the time to talk with me about this today, and I hope those of you who are watching are, kind of like me. When Carolyn and I spoke not long ago, and we were having this conversation, and when she brought this up, it was something I was like, I never thought of that before. Maybe you've not thought about it before either. So now you've got the information, and you'll know what to do with it. And then again, if you have any additional questions, reach out to Caroline.
Yeah.
Thank you so much for watching another installment of Ron Ruth Presents here on DJN TV, and I look forward to seeing you all some other time. Say goodbye, Caroline.
Thanks, everybody. Have a great day.
Bye-bye, y'all.